I get almost like an anxiety about putting my phone on airplane mode when I'm on a plane. Not that I could actually really get all the messages when I'm on the plane anyway, but part of the issue is when if I'm on a plane for 3 or 4 hours,
Right.
at the point that I land and they turn off the seatbelt sign,
Yeah.
and I then turn my airplane mode off, many times the text messages, the emails, the voicemails,
Yeah.
and sometimes there's always one or two urgent ones that someone's going, I've tried to call you 5 times. And I'm like, I've only been in the air. I flew to San Antonio. I haven't been in the air for more than 2.5 hours. Like, what could you have needed from me so desperately?
Right.
And so sometimes there is this sort of inability to shut off and just say, look, I know I'm the mayor and I know, I'm, in charge of a city of 194,000 plus people with the largest public university in the country, but I'm also a human being.
Welcome to Extraordinary Stories. I'm your host, Forbes Shannon, and with me,
Christine Butler.
And today in studio, the man, the myth, the legend. I'm so glad you're here, Mayor Woods. It's been awesome to get to know you. 6 years serving the city of Tempe as the mayor, and really excited to see all the stuff that's going to come later for you. Mayor Corey Woods. Corey, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I was going to say, you're still a much better stand-up comedian than me as well. Even the couple of sets that I've done don't compare to the work that you've done, my friend.
I disagree. Mayor Woods has opened Arizona After Dark with Aaron Bear and I several times, and it's awesome. It was great to see you up there.
But the funny part was the first way that you actually got me to do it. So,
I got to hear this.
When this first started, Aaron reached out to me and said, Mayor, we're going to start this new comedy show up at 100 Mile Brewing in North Tempe, and we would love to have you come out and do a little bit of a welcome to the audience that's coming. And I said, of course. So about 10 minutes before I got there, I'm not lying about this, Aaron sends me a text and says, hey, so instead of a welcome, could you do a little brief sort of stand-up set, maybe about 3 or 4 jokes? And I'm like, Aaron, I talk for a living, but stand-up comedy is a completely different skill set. It's not like giving a speech about, I don't know, economic development or about stormwater drains. Comedy is about jokes and timing. So I ended up going up there and doing about probably a 3 to 5 joke set. And about probably 2 of them landed pretty well. The other 3 completely were flat. And I had to just sort of plow through. But it's so funny being up there as a stand-up comedian. You're going, I just need to move on from this and try not to let the last joke bomb so badly. I need to keep my confidence and just keep plowing forward to the next joke. So I got a couple in, and then I did that. The most fun one I did though with all of you was there was a Halloween one where we did kind of an improv segment. And I remember telling a couple of jokes during that segment that actually did get a pretty good rise out of the crowd. And I'm going, okay, so maybe I'm better at improv and just sort of being funny off the cuff than I am standing up in front of a room telling jokes. But I used some of that skill set actually at oh my gosh, what was it? It was a birthday party, I believe it was, and it was in the same room where you have
100 Mile.
And I told a joke about a friend of mine who was a former coworker because he basically started sort of digging at me like it was a Def Comedy Jam thing, and I went right back at him, and the crowd was like, I can't believe Corey said that. I'm like, look, man, I have it in me. Sometimes if you poke me, something's going to come out.
Yeah.
I remember loving it, watching you. I was in the back. I was like, yo, Mayor got jokes, dude.
You got to have a sense of humor at a job like this.
No.
We can obviously be very serious people, but you have to have some jokes.
But what's
100%.
wild is that you just jumped into it 10 minutes in. That's skill.
Well, I think when you are accustomed to speaking in public, you at least have kind of one part of it down where you're going, I don't have stage fright about being in front of people. I don't have stage fright about potentially embarrassing myself and saying something that might not land.
Yeah.
As much as I don't have that kind of comedic timing because I haven't done it professionally or I haven't even done it even as an amateur for a period of time. But I think at least for me walking into that kind of environment and probably why Aaron felt comfortable asking me is he knows this guy at least is comfortable getting in front of a room of 500 or 600 people and giving a speech, and it doesn't bother him. He's totally, and so it is funny when most people are very kind of weirded out by public speaking. I have friends who will text me all the time and say things like, I don't know how you do all this public speaking. I just get completely petrified at the concept, and I don't even think about it. There are other things that I can't do, like when I'm taking a plant back to a plant store in Mill Avenue, the plant mill. So shout out to Cassidy Lujan, who's the owner over there. And I will tell you, I literally walked down the street because I live in downtown Tempe because I was killing yet another plant.
Okay.
And she actually took all the dead leaves and roots out. She said, Corey, your biggest problem is sometimes you're an overwaterer. Sometimes you care too much.
Care too much, yeah.
And you got to stop caring
It's
so
common.
much. But then the other problem is sometimes if you don't have any light in your place, it means that the water just sort of sits there and collects, and then it begins to kill the plant. So I need you to find whatever the sunniest part of your apartment is and get it on a windowsill somewhere so at least it will dry out, and no water for at least 2 weeks. I know you want to love on your plant, Corey, but see it and put your clothes on and walk away from the plant. So, hey, I mean.
That's a common thing I've heard, the two most fears that people have more than death: public speaking and then not being able to water your plant.
Right, exactly. No, it's definitely it's high up there. And it's funny.
Wow.
I mean, I'm competitive, so I'm going to keep buying plants and trying to keep them alive and grow them until I can figure it out. I have not figured it out yet, but I'm going to keep trying. I'm going for it.
Listen, you got Martha Stewart here.
There
I will
we go.
help
See?
you. Okay,
Oh
I
my-
gave Forbes my plants before I moved to the East Coast this summer. They are looking great.
Be honest.
They're great.
Yeah, no, be honest. What did you think was going to happen to those plants?
They were gonna die.
Well, that's what I would have assumed too. Did you have any prior experience of taking care of plants?
You know what's weird is I was working for the City of Ann Arbor Parks and Recreation Department.
So I'm a University of Michigan graduate. So
Well, I grew up in Ann Arbor, but I went to ASU.
Right.
Yeah. And so, go blue, right?
of course,
You get it.
always,
You get
always.
it. And there was in May, there was a big event where it was Ann Arbor Blooms Day.
Yeah.
So we had to plant
Oh.
10,000 flowers.
Yeah.
And I was in charge of the volunteers. And then somehow I got in charge of picking out which flowers went where. This is before ChatGPT.
Right,
You understand?
Why is that
Oh,
so
yeah.
funny to me?
Oh, dude, I was at every different flower shop, and I'm like, please help me design, and then people are like, the colors are a little off this year. I was like, yeah, man, I can't even dress myself, and you have me dress Main Street in flowers. So no,
good.
that's my only experience.
Well,
with
and
it.
I have
Yeah.
to, once again, that reminds me of another shout out, of course, for the Tempe Blooms Festival, which was this past year in its third year.
Okay.
It is for many of our merchants in the downtown their highest revenue grossing day in the entire year. So
No
for about
way.
2 days, we have incredible floral installations all over Mill Avenue, and people just come out in droves.
Yeah.
And it's not just Tempe residents, it's frankly people from across the valley. And I will walk past a lot of our restaurants, and sometimes there's lines out the door, but the lines out the door for the Tempe Bloom, it's down the street. You basically can't get in. I tried to get into Proof Bread Bakery that just opened up this past October. The line was all the way down the street.
That's when you need to whip out your mayor card and be like, guys, I'm here on
No,
mission. I need to.
First of all, for the record, I would never do that. And second of all,
For
the
the
problem with just for the record, okay, for whoever who's watching, I want you to know that I'm not going to do that. But the other issue too, though, with that is that now with everything being constantly transcribed on
Yeah.
social media and everyone
Don't
has a
risk it.
camera phone, I will be literally like put on blast in about 15 minutes. Like, oh, I was waiting for my croissant and the mayor just swoops in and grabs a cinnamon bun. And it's like,
Yeah.
like that one commercial where the guy steals cotton candy from the kid
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
football
That's
game.
another
And it's
Michigan
Charles
commercial.
Woodson,
Yeah.
of course. Maybe the greatest Wolverine of all time.
Yeah.
Some might argue Tom Brady. I'm kind of a Charles Woodson
I
guy
love it.
myself.
I
So
love it.
first, defensive player to ever win the Heisman Trophy in college football. But anyway, I should also note too, because you talked about being in Ann Arbor, but going to ASU. So
Yeah.
my graduate degree is at ASU. So
Okay.
I've got an undergrad degree from the University of Michigan,
Yep.
but I have another degree from ASU as well. So
Yeah.
I've got both of those wonderful institutions' diplomas hanging on my wall at City Hall right now.
Do you find that the city of Ann Arbor and the city of Tempe are super similar?
Mm.
There's a lot of similarities in terms of just the fact that you've got large public universities.
Yep.
ASU is the largest public university in the country. University of Michigan's obviously a huge school as well. And so I do see a lot of similarities in terms of what they call the town and gown relationship.
Town
A
and
lot of folks, who are mayors work with small business people and a lot of other folks, but they don't always have a large university right in their backyard. So, I have quarterly meetings with Dr. Crow and his senior leadership team to try to make sure that both of our entities can be on the same page with regards to major initiatives. And I could say the relationship between the city and the university has frankly never been better. We have a great relationship and very, very happy for the partnership that we have. But I mean, even in terms of some of the growth, though. So, I mean, I graduated from the University of Michigan in 2000. And when I go back there now, because I probably go back at least once a year to visit old friends.
Yeah.
And when I walk down, whether it's South State Street or specifically South University, there are high-rise buildings everywhere, and none of that stuff was there when I graduated.
Very
None
true.
of it.
Not
So-
even when I was growing up there, it wasn't
Right.
there. Yeah.
And so I think
Wow.
about some of the challenges we have sometimes in Tempe, where if you've lived in the city of Tempe for 30, 40, 50 years, and sometimes there's people who don't like a lot of the growth. They don't like the building heights. They don't
Mm.
like the density. They don't like the increased traffic. But I kind of then go to a place like Ann Arbor, which were some of my formative years from 1996 to 2000. And I go, the same thing is happening in Ann Arbor that's happening in the city of Tempe right now.
Right.
So it's not just simply Tempe and ASU. It's a lot of these sort of very forward-thinking college and university towns that are experiencing these huge population booms and need an influx of new housing.
So let's go back to your time in Ann Arbor.
Mhm.
Little undergrad Corey Woods.
I had hair back then. It's wild, when I could grow a full head of hair,
Okay.
because like shortly after that time, my hairline began to recede, probably, and I would say probably my late 20s.
Yeah, you and me both.
But for
Yeah.
a while, you can kind of just, your barber can
Yeah,
kind of go a little further back with the hairline. But then about probably 4 or 5 years ago, I remember one day I was sitting around and I put my hand on the back of my head and I'm like, wait, that's skin. Like, that's not stubble. Like, there is nothing growing right there on the back of my head. And that's when I was like, just shave it.
Yeah.
But it makes haircuts very easy. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like
100%.
it's so like, what would you like, Mr. Woods? Like, oh, this is the only haircut we can
What do you
actually offer you.
think?
This is all you get, sir. Yeah.
So, little undergraduate Corey Woods that still had hair. What was he dreaming that he would accomplish?
I wanted to get into public service and politics.
Yeah.
I was a political science major with a
Good.
minor in African American studies. Also, as a note, I had enough credits to also have a women's studies minor as well, but they
Okay.
made you choose one. And so I
Okay.
think I flipped a coin in my guidance
You got-
counselor's office, and African American studies was the one that came up.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I chose tails, and but I remember that period of time just saying I really wanted to get into public service.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I grew up as a child watching my parents sit around the dinner table with myself and my younger brother and talk about domestic policy and foreign policy. And I think just sort of through osmosis, you begin to pick some of it up.
Sure.
They were not in politics. That's always a question that I get. It's, well, were your parents in politics? Were they city council members? Were they on the school board or the state legislature? And I'm like, no, they didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
They talked a lot about it.
Yeah.
And they watched a lot of political shows.
Yeah.
And so we grew up having these very intense conversations, but but I was never pushed into doing it. It was the first opportunity I had to get involved in student government was actually in 5th grade at a small Catholic middle school that I went to called Holy Family Middle School, which is actually no longer in existence. The church still exists, but the school's since been shut down. And I, just due to low enrollment. And the first year they had for us to do student government was 5th grade. And so I ran for 5th grade class representative at the time. And I really just said, man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing bake sales. We're selling lemon bars up in
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
Having a pizza party to raise money for the school field trip to the zoo. Like,
Yeah.
I'm down with this.
I love it.
And then my interest in that kind of space just continued to grow. And my parents nurtured it. I mean, they knew that what I wanted to do was sort of a noble profession. And they said, yeah, if that's what you want to do,
Yeah.
then you should do it. I mean, and I believed in it so much that my first 2 years of high school, that first year I played baseball, and then I played baseball my second year for a sort of a citywide travel team. We played
Okay.
teams for all. So I was a pretty good baseball player. But by the time I got to my junior year, that's when things get very intense. It
Right.
becomes, and I was in student government. I was freshman class president and sophomore class president
Sure.
in my high school.
Uh-huh.
And so it got to the place where I had to kind of pick what I wanted to do. Because I kind of thought to myself, if I keep trying to do both of these, being in student government, but
Right.
also playing baseball, I'm going to do one of them poorly.
Sure.
And sometimes people do that anyway because they want stuff on their college transcript because they're applying to college. And it's like, look, I don't really care if I'm doing any of this stuff, whatever, but I want this school to see that I'm this well-rounded individual that deserves admission to your college.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to be involved in what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, I basically said, I think I'm going to stop playing baseball and focus on student government, which I
Wow.
know is like the nerdiest thing
No, listen,
that
hey.
someone's probably ever said on this podcast. But you know what? Whatever. I will own the championship belt of nerdiness. It's all
We
good.
got a couple nerds in here that, Austin,
sure.
Jack, one of our extraordinary members, also was involved in
fourth
student.
grade. That's
Yeah.
when he got into student government, and
Yeah.
so Mayor Woods, 6 years in mayor,
Mm-hmm.
2 more left.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? Everything you dreamed it would be?
Oh my goodness. Where do I even start? The job is a fun one. If you look, I always sort of break it down as in public policy. Well, I should say public service is basically two different aspects to me. It's people and policy.
Mm.
If you like those things, it's a great job.
Yeah.
I like both.
Yeah.
I know some people in politics who only like one or the other.
Yeah.
They very much love people, the policy, and maybe not so much. Some of them really love policy, but could probably do without the people.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually do like both. I'm very nerdy, and I like public policy and reading things about affordable housing and how to generate more economic development, and whether shutting down your entire street to create a pedestrian mall
Yeah.
actually works,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
what's the actual success fail rate. I mean, I love stuff like that. But I also like people. I love going to neighborhood functions and potlucks for the community. I had a 2.5-hour long meeting last week with a neighborhood association about a project that they were concerned about. And I sat there from 7 p.m. to 9:30 and just answered questions.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
afterwards, folks said, was that difficult for you? Because some of the questions were tough. And
Yeah.
I said, no, I feel in my element. I mean,
Mhm.
I like the idea of having town hall meetings, having the ability to have that kind of an exchange with residents. And I learn a lot from, frankly, being around them. So hopefully they learn something from me, and I learn something from the questions they're asking. And many times think that the input and feedback we're getting will only make the project better if it goes
Right.
through. So
Mhm.
I like both aspects of it. And so
Mhm.
that's the so for me personally, the job has been very fulfilling and very rewarding. Now, on the flip side, it's also exhausting.
Sure.
I mean, you work round the clock.
Yeah.
And
You're always on, right? Like
you're-
you can't go out of the house and not be the mayor.
no, you can't.
Right,
I mean,
yeah,
and you
mhm.
can't have bad days. I
Yeah.
mean, you if you're in public, I don't care if you're at a drugstore or
Mhm.
at the grocery store in public, and someone walks up to you and they perceive that you're standoffish or rude,
Yeah.
Right.
maybe you're just tired.
Yeah.
And sometimes things get perceived completely incorrectly. I've had people write stuff about me on social media that frankly is totally false. Because this is their perception
Yeah.
of an interaction they had with me. And then the problem is I don't have the ability to go online and start arguing with them, saying like,
Let me do it. Corey.
that's
Let
actually
me do
not
it.
true. Like, no, it's like I need like the Obama translator with me at
Yeah.
all times.
Yeah,
To be
yeah.
like, what Corey really was trying to say was this. So, but so that it's tough because you don't have any anonymity.
Yeah.
You walk around and people know exactly who you are. Like, oh my gosh, I will hear people walk past me sometimes. Even I was on a mountain one day,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
and these two guys were walking by me, and as they walked by, I could hear them go, "Oh my God, that's the mayor!" And I'm just like, I just say hi to me. So I'm not going to bite your head off or anything. So that sometimes is tough, like the inability to shut off
Yeah.
or to go places. And not be recognized. There is sort of an always on kind of persona that you have to have. And then the tough thing is even when you try to take a vacation,
Oh yeah.
you don't really get to put an out of office
Mhm.
assistant on and for your Outlook
Sure.
account and say, hey, I'm gone for 10 days. If you want to talk to someone, contact so-and-so at extension 9675.
Yeah.
People sort of expect you to be on at all times, and the public doesn't know you're on vacation. And then I've seen elected officials in other states
Yeah.
almost get in trouble. Like
Totally.
they're somewhere else,
Yeah.
perhaps on somewhat official business, but the public may not think it's official business. Some calamity happens back at home. And then it's
Right.
like, well, where are they? Why aren't they here? And what's going on? And it's
Right.
like, they're human beings that have
Yeah.
huge demands on their schedule. And so they can't be in two places at the same time. So I was telling you before we went on air here that I get almost like an anxiety about putting my phone on airplane mode when I'm on a plane. Not that I could actually really get all the messages when I'm on the plane anyway. But part of the issue is if I'm on a plane for 3 or 4 hours,
Right.
at the point that I land and they turn off the seatbelt sign,
Yeah.
and I then turn my airplane mode off, many times the text messages, the emails, the voicemails,
Yeah.
and sometimes there's always one or two urgent ones that someone's going, "I've tried to call you 5 times." And I'm like, "I've only been in the air. I flew to San Antonio. I haven't been in the air for more than 2.5 hours. Like, what could you have needed from me so desperately?"
Right.
And so sometimes there is this sort of inability to shut off and just say, "Look, I know I'm the mayor and I know, I'm, in charge of a city of 194,000 plus people with the largest public university in the country, but I'm also a human being and I
Yeah.
need my time to take a vacation and shut my mind off from time to time." So
Mhm.
I do love the job. It's an exceptional job, an exceptional opportunity to serve. I love public policy and moving the city forward and positioning the city for a very prosperous, bright future. But at the same time, it also can be very emotionally and mentally taxing because you're just sort of in a constant state of being on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does Corey Woods turn off?
Um, Not well. I always tell people, like, when I figure that out, I will come back on the podcast again and say,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, I figured it out. Let's
Yeah.
have a conversation." I just try to make sure that I can do certain things for myself. I mean, I,
Mm.
go to the gym at least 3 days a week, and I'm in the gym at 6 a.m. because my phone doesn't usually start ringing until about probably 7:30,
Okay.
7:45.
Okay.
So if I'm out of the gym by about 7 a.m., that usually can be my time for myself to just sort of work on my own physical and mental well-being. And so that's sort of something that I like to do. I'm a big foodie, and so
Mhm.
I love
Cool.
restaurants and I love
You live in a great
eating.
city for that.
I
Yes.
certainly
Yeah.
do. I
Uh-huh.
mean, lots of great places in Tempe, even more great places coming by the end of this calendar year. So I think that's going to be a very interesting story. I'm sure there are going to be reporters that are going to write stories about kind of this new renaissance that's going on
Mm.
Mill Avenue.
Yeah.
If you come back and we talk in December, I'll be able to point out all of these new
Let's
places,
do it.
kind of restaurant, bars, retail, entertainment that have all opened
Mhm.
in the last several months. And so, yeah, I mean, I like that too. The notion of going to dinner with friends and enjoying a good
Yeah.
meal and just sort of all letting our guard down and having some just sort of good, honest conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And maybe not,
human.
and sometimes it's a little bit more work related and sometimes it's just goofing off, frankly.
Yeah.
But those are probably my top two things. It's going out to eat and spending time with friends and going to the gym.
Well, the foodie thing's interesting because I know a passion of yours is really like city building, like
Yeah.
economic development. Like I'm curious, did you like ever like play like a board game growing up or something like Monopoly or something where you're like, this is when I design a city, this is how I'm going to design it.
I played a lot of Monopoly growing up.
I could tell.
I was all about those blue 50s and the gold 500s. Honestly, though, the economic development thing was something I kind of stumbled into. So
Okay.
the affordable housing work that I spent a lot of time doing in Tempe and have been doing since 2008 when I was first elected to the city council at the age of 29. That work I knew I wanted to do. I just sort of always had this passion for saying, look, we have young people who are graduating from ASU or MCC
Hmm.
and or any of our 3 local school districts, and they're getting rapidly priced out of the community.
Yeah.
And we have to find a way to keep this talent here. We don't
Yeah.
want people getting educated in our community and then experiencing some kind of massive brain drain when they go somewhere else.
Sure.
Um, so that was something that I knew. And then seniors, obviously, living on fixed incomes or folks who are working a very honest 40, 45, 50
Yeah.
hours a week, but just are in jobs or professions that don't tend to earn a lot of money.
Right.
And so my goal was always, I want us to be a diverse community of people of all different races and backgrounds and income levels. And so the housing stuff, even at the age of 29 when I first started, I knew that I was going to spend a lot of time in that area. The economic development thing I stumbled into a
Okay.
little bit. When I wouldn't say I did a whole ton of it when I was a council member for 8 years, but when I became mayor, it was sort of a different ball game.
Hmm.
And I was, becoming mayor in July of 2020 at sort of the height of the COVID pandemic.
Crazy time.
It was a
too.
crazy time. When
Yeah.
you're an extrovert like me, I don't know if you've noticed that about me. Perhaps maybe you all have at home. But like it's hard to govern a city from behind a laptop screen when you're
Sure.
so
Mhm.
used to shaking hands and hugging people. I
Yeah.
mean, that's how people like me as extroverts get our energy. It's
Yeah.
running around and hugging people and bear hugging. And when you can't do that, it's tough. But the economic development thing was really interesting because there were businesses that absolutely survived that have been in downtown Tempe for a long time. Cafe Boa, Cactus Sports, Fat
Yeah.
Tuesday. There are a lot of places
Yeah.
like that, Casa, that have been
Mhm.
around for a long time, Pedal House Brewery.
Yeah.
But then there were unfortunately businesses that didn't make it. I mean,
Yeah.
in downtown Tempe and frankly in places all over the country when
Yeah.
you're
Right.
having, when people can't, you have to have occupancy limits or people aren't leaving their homes the same
Right.
Right.
way. And so I then sort of saw this thing. I sort of said, well, we need a more diverse business mix
Mhm.
in the downtown. We need to find a way to celebrate the businesses that have been here for a long time and have made Mill Avenue what it was.
Yeah.
And what it currently is. But we also need to look to the future and look at the demographics of the people who live, work, and play down here
Mhm.
now and
Mhm.
try to make sure that we have restaurants and bars and entertainment and retail for all of these people.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of where it started we had all of these vacant spaces
Mhm.
all of a sudden. And I started saying, well, how do I play matchmaker here? Like, what
Yeah.
do we need? Where are the
Mm.
holes in sort of our portfolio here? And how do I work with people in my economic development team and with folks in the private sector to kind of rebuild this downtown?
Yeah.
And it's been challenging. It's been one of the biggest challenges I've ever faced
Yeah.
because sometimes you come in and your downtown has a certain perception to people, and our downtown's perception was your college town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when people think of, and there's nothing wrong with being a university town. I think it's fantastic. It's one of the things I love about living in Tempe.
For
It's a
sure.
very youthful, forward-thinking, innovative place. But at the same time, when I looked around, I'm going, well, but there's all this sort of market rate multifamily around here. We've got market rate condos and
Mhm.
market rate apartments, one of which I have lived in for 6 years now. We have Mirabella at ASU, which is a senior community,
Mhm.
but people with typically kind of higher incomes. You've now got all of these hotels around here, like the Omni and the Westin and the Canopy and the Mission Palms Hotel, which has been there for a long
Mhm.
time. And then we're a hotbed for Class A office. And so I'm going, but a lot of the business here don't reflect the diversity that I'm seeing
Interesting.
in the
Yeah.
downtown and frankly in the neighborhoods that surround the downtown. I would talk to some of our residents in South Tempe, kind of south of the US 60 or Baseline Road, and they would say, it's not that we don't want to come to downtown Tempe, it's just that there's nothing for us down there other than a few businesses.
Sure.
And so my whole thought was, we're always going to be a university town. And so you're always going to have some of the more traditional college establishments. And
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. But you also have to have things for people in their 30s,
Right.
40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s now.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you see Mill Avenue going.
Yeah.
It's not about gentrification. It's not
Mhm.
about sort of trying to jettison the history of Mill Avenue
Yeah.
and what it was and what it's meant to a lot of people. It's just saying there's probably a more diverse group of people living in and around the downtown and throughout the city of Tempe.
Mhm.
And all of those people deserve to have options that they can eat, shop, or do whatever they want in.
For
So,
sure. Yeah, well, I've already seen that change. I
Yeah.
mean, 4 years ago, I would go to Mill Ave, and I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, I'm old."
mhm.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I go, and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, these are my people, and this is the community."
Am I just
Yeah.
getting cool again?
I
Yeah.
was at, since I'm going to keep, name dropping and doing shout outs here. I mean, I was at Filthy Animal last night at the,
Yeah.
northwest corner of Mill University, which
Uh-huh.
many people know
Yeah.
that the two spaces that occupies now were an old PF Chang's, which I think was
Yeah.
maybe the second PF Chang's in the entire country.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
The first one was in Scottsdale, and it exists,
still
but I
there,
think
yeah,
this one
mhm.
was the second one.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then the other one was a Great Clips hair salon.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so that's now, Filthy Animal, which opened about almost a year ago now.
Okay.
They had a soft open in mid to late March, and then they opened to the public fully on Friday, April 18th of last year. Why do I remember that? I don't know, but I do. I have a weird knack for dates and statistics and percentages. But it was also because it was a very big deal to me that we were getting a restaurant of that kind of caliber.
Yeah.
And it's interesting looking at even some of our Placer AI data and just some of the revenue numbers, especially kind of at the south end of the street. Just the presence of that one restaurant has completely transformed all of Mill Avenue.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And now people are kind of going to be, okay, like, this is great. Like, what's next?
Mm.
But I remember when it was first happening, there were people who were skeptical and they thought, well, can you do that kind of high-end restaurant on Mill Avenue? Is that going to work? To which I had to remind people that Cafe Boa has been there for 30 years
Right.
and House of Tricks was there for 34 years.
Yeah.
And these were high-end restaurants
Yeah.
that
Yep.
people have tons of memories from. And so, of course, we can actually accommodate something like this. Of
Sure.
course, this would work in the sort of the business mix of Mill Avenue. And I mean, the restaurant's been a complete hit. I
Yeah.
mean, you cannot get in there on
Mhm.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday without a reservation. You cannot just walk in. And when I was there last night, which is a Wednesday, which is typically kind of a dead night for a lot of restaurants, every table was full
Awesome.
inside and outside on the patio. And
Awesome.
so now I have residents coming to me and saying, "Well, when's the next one coming here? What do you have on deck next?" And so it's awesome to see how our residents and frankly even people who don't live in Tempe are seeing the transformation and are going, "Okay, like what's next? This is really cool, but like
Yeah.
let's keep this momentum going." So I'm super excited about what's going on down there. But that's a long way of saying it's funny. I didn't go in thinking that I was going to spend so much time on economic development, but it was sort of circumstantial that I kind
Yeah.
of ended up in that space. But once I did end up there, I was going, I really like this.
Yeah.
This is cool. So
Yeah.
Well, you're in the right state. We're just popping up left and right.
yeah.
You see the West Valley is just growing
Oh yeah.
crazy.
Absolutely. They
Yeah.
sure are. I mean, I look at some of the developments that are taking places in Buckeye and
Yeah.
Goodyear and Peoria, and I'm going, man, like these places are booming. And it's because the East Valley is getting to the point of being almost completely built out. I mean,
Right.
you're getting more vertical development now
Yeah.
in the East Valley because places like Tempe that are 40 square miles and totally landlocked. I mean, we don't have any place to sprawl.
Right.
So
Right.
everything is some kind of an infill redevelopment project of an existing site. But right, I mean, the West Valley where they still have land to build
Yeah.
on, yeah, you're seeing new, housing communities, new shopping centers that seemingly are popping up overnight. So I think
Yeah.
it's very exciting for the entire state.
Well, I
Yeah,
love that we're
absolutely.
talking about the future. If I could ask you to take your mayor hat off for a second.
Sure.
Tell me about the future of Corey Woods.
First of all, the mayor hat is probably stapled to my head. I tell people all the time because I mean I'm 47 and not married, and I tell folks all the time that I might not be married to the city of Tempe, but we're in a very long-term committed
Yep.
relationship. That is for darn sure.
Yep.
When it comes to next, I really truthfully don't know. And a lot of people who ask me that question, they sort of assume that, oh, he knows. He's
Mhm.
doing the politician thing of he has a sense as to where he's going.
Yeah.
He's just not telling us.
Mhm.
I really don't know. I mean, this is my 6th year as mayor. It's my 14th year on the city council. When I started on council, I was 29. Now I'm 47. And you have other interests many times as a human being that are not related to politics at all.
Right.
I think politics is always going to be in my blood in some way, shape, or form, given the career that I've had up to this point. But there are a lot of things that I frankly want to do that I haven't had a chance to do because I spend so much time in public service.
Yeah.
And it's been fantastic. So I mean, I'm not ruling out the possibility of running for another office at some point.
Mhm.
Maybe something will come up or someone will make me an offer that I can't refuse and say, "Hey, you should go do this." And I'll go, "That's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
I think I could make a difference over there." But I also have seen other opportunities in other places to further other interests and learn new skill sets that if I wasn't in politics anymore, I would have more time to do and to partake in. So I'm kind of sort of taking this as sort of I've got, a couple of years left on my term, and I'm just going to sort of let the chips fall where they may. But I think I'll end up where I need to end up, wherever that happens to be.
That's a beautiful belief.
Yeah. And very hard for a type A personality like myself because I'm a planner. I am the kind of person, if anyone who knows me knows, I typically want to sit around and sketch everything out and then run multiple different scenarios to
Yeah.
go, okay, well, if this happens, then this. And well, if that happens, then my favorite books as a kid were choose your own adventure books.
Yeah.
That I didn't want just to read a novel or a story. I wanted to read something where it's like, go to page 77 and you could take the car. Go to
That's
page
so
81 and take
funny.
the boat,
Right.
and like, I took the boat and I crashed. No, so I got to go back to 77 now.
Let me redo it.
Those were my favorite books because they gave me options.
Yeah.
And so, but I tend to be a planner by nature, and I like to kind of know what's coming next, have a really good plan, or sometimes like game out a whole bunch of different scenarios. So I guess I'm probably gaming out the different scenarios now about what might make sense, but I haven't settled on one thing in particular.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
I love it.
That's a great answer. I have one question for you.
Sure.
Are you the kind of guy who reads the IKEA instructions?
Yes.
Okay, I knew
Yes.
it. Yep.
No,
yep,
I am.
Yep,
I am.
Yep. Reddit.
I am not. I am not one of those people who is afraid to ask for
Okay.
directions. I live by my GPS. I would probably get lost in my own
Same,
backyard.
same,
I'm not the
same.
guy. People like, Corey, you've been to this place 10 times? I'm like, yeah, but I haven't gone enough. I don't know where I'm going. So Google Maps get me to where I need to go and on time, please.
Yeah.
And yeah, the IKEA. I mean, yeah, you bust out the Allen wrench, whatever.
Oh,
But I
yeah.
mean, but
I love it.
I will put the directions on
one,
the
2, 3,
ground and
to
start
a dot.
and
Yep,
crank
yep.
and crank away over there. So, but no, I don't. But right in that area, like I don't have that level of expertise to say, hey, I can just see this and instinctively
Mhm.
or intuitively know how this whole thing goes together. I really need to look at the instructions and see exactly how to put this together piece by piece, step by step. So I'm a person who's very willing to ask for help. And also I was reading a book at one point called The Death of Expertise. And I think it's a real challenge sometimes in today's world where
Uh,
we have so much access to information that
Mm.
a lot of people think they're experts in everything by just simply watching a couple of YouTube
Sure.
videos
Sure.
or saying something into Chat GPT. And I have a real healthy level of respect for people who have an expertise in a given area, regardless of what that thing is. I may say, hey, I might have expertise in some things based on my life experience and what I've done. But then there are a whole host of other things that I know very little about, or I'm just
Gardening.
gardening. Exactly. And so and that's a good example. I am fascinated by that. I mean, when I see someone who has a store full of plants
Yeah.
that they can keep alive. They know all the different species of plant,
The
what the
soil.
soil,
Right.
what needs more water, what needs less water, what
Mhm.
needs more sunlight, what can survive at a darker
Mhm.
space. And I'm going, I don't have any expertise in any of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then I become fascinated by those people because I'm going like, you have a skill set that I do not possess at
Mm.
all in any way, shape, or form. So I just sit there staring, going like, how do you know how to nurse a plant back to
Yeah.
life? Like
Mm.
I don't have any idea. I mean, when I go to places now, like I don't have any artistic talent that I know of. I can't draw.
Stand up comedy.
Well, I mean, barely. You know, I mean, but I mean, barely. But I will say, I mean, I don't have any artistic talent necessarily that I'm aware of. I mean, I don't draw or paint or do collages or
But
things of that
Your
nature.
your way of thinking is very artistic.
I think it is. I tend to be very open
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
innovation, and so
Mhm.
in that way, shape, or form, I'm not constrained by sort of the four walls of a
Right.
building. I'm going, hey, what is possible if we really put our minds together and we really get the right coalitions built? We can probably change the world and move mountains. And so that's why I got into public service and public policy in the first place. It was because I really believed that I could do something good for people and do something good for the world. But when I see people, if I go to an art show as an example, and I go to art shows in the city of Tempe, frankly, pretty regularly
Yeah.
now. We have a group, the Tempe Art and Music Coalition, that just started recently up in Donnell Plaza at the southwest corner of Mill and Southern, where the Yucca Tap Room is. And they're doing all this great work, incubating and curating local artists and collections. And I go there and I see these folks who've put together these works, and I'm just in awe of what they're doing
Yeah.
because my brain doesn't work that way
Mhm.
necessarily. And I go, how did they come up with this? Like, how did they even think to do this or to put these elements together? So as I walk around through a gallery or through a different exhibit, I'm just in awe of these folks because I'm like, that is a talent that I do not possess. You
Mhm.
want to talk to me about transportation policy or about the benefits of I don't know, wood frame construction versus steel and concrete and glass. Like I can talk to you about that stuff, but when I'm around artists or people who are maintaining plants
Mm.
or things, I mean, I'm just my tattoo artist is a good example of that. I mean, I've got a couple of very elaborate tattoos on both arms. And I had an old tattoo that I'd gotten when I was probably like 21, 22, 23, and it was like two or three different iterations. And I felt like I'd kind of outgrown the tattoo. It
Mhm.
didn't have any meaning to me
Mhm.
anymore. And I went to see a tattoo artist, who I got to know very well. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want something that's sort of representative of my heritage. And so I did a 23andMe test. I'm also adopted, as
Okay.
is my younger brother. So I've never met my birth parents. So
Okay.
I didn't have access to all the family tree type genetic information
Yeah.
that a
Yeah.
lot of people have access to. So I did a 23andMe test. And I found out that a lot of my heritage was about 33 to third Nigerian. And so I thought that was very interesting. And so I
Yeah.
wanted something that sort of symbolized my own heritage, but something that had other meanings. And so I decided to get this lion tattoo on my left arm. And it was sort of to symbolize not just sort of some Nigerian and African descent, but it was
Mhm.
also about strength and wisdom and sort of leadership
Yeah.
qualities. And so I thought it would be a really kind of interesting thing. And I kept thinking, well, am I going to have to get the other tattoo lasered off because it's so dark?
Yeah.
And he said, no, Corey, if you have a talented enough tattoo artist, many times you don't have to have anything lasered off at all. Like,
Yeah.
we actually like to work with what was under there because I can draw a new picture of what I want to do.
From that.
But then a lot of the elements that were frankly in the old tattoo show up in the new one, and it makes for this sort of funky rendering that people
Mhm.
look at it and go, what's going on there? Like, that's really cool. And it's like, well, yeah, because it was actually something else 25
Yeah.
years ago that he's now sort of covering up and refashioning and rethinking. So I mean, so like when I sat there for the 7 hours in the chair as he was working on me, I was thinking to myself, I don't have any talent like this. I could have never visualized what he saw and the
Yeah.
fact that this would work. But I think that's the beautiful thing about the world. It's like
Right.
we all have different skill sets, and
Yeah.
if we all kind of work together, but we also respect the fact that sometimes people have expertise in areas that we don't, and we have sort of an appreciation for that. I think we can all kind of combine all of our talents and make
That's
them work
right.
together.
That's a great definition for extraordinary, right? A
Yeah.
bunch of talents all coming together, collaborating.
And it's a beautiful segue into the question that we love to ask
Yeah.
everyone on Extraordinary Stories.
Mhm.
If there was one piece of advice that our listeners could act on today to be more extraordinary like Corey, what would it be?
Mm.
Well, I guess it depends on who you ask about whether I'm extraordinary or not. I would just say, and I actually say this to young people that I talk to all the time, because I mean, I now have an opportunity to speak in middle schools and high schools and with college students. I gave a presentation on Monday on a panel to a group of ASU students who were involved in tourism and part of a
Mm.
tourism association. I was actually reading Green Eggs and Ham to preschool kids a couple of
Love
days
it.
ago as well. And I spent a lot of time in local high schools talking to young people. But the advice is just as it would work just as well for people of all ages as it would for young people, is try to surround yourself with people who are going to help you grow and
Mm.
challenge you
Mhm.
and be extraordinary. And don't surround yourself with people who are small-minded and can't seem to get out of their own way or want to drag you down because they haven't been able to get to where they've wanted to get in life. So now they want to pull you back down with them. I basically tell them I'm around people all the time. My best friends are the people who actually challenge me,
Mm.
not people like, that's and especially in my kind of world, because sometimes when you're in politics, there is always a concern that you'll be surrounded by people who are just going to tell you what you want to hear, who are
Yeah.
going to stroke your ego and be
Right.
like, you're amazing, Corey Woods. But a lot of my best friends, most of them are people who give it to me very straight. I mean,
Mm.
it's just sort of, hey man, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And it's like, why not? But I mean, but I want that. I encourage
Right.
that. I always make space for that and say, if you really care about me, then you need to tell me the truth. I'm about to go out and give a speech to 300 people. And if there's a statistic that's wrong here, or you think the conclusion I've reached is somehow wrong, you need to challenge me
Yeah.
before I get out there and say something on record that I can't then take back.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me, like, hey, man, either that's just factually incorrect,
Right.
or my gut, Corey, tells me that that's not the right position to take.
Mm.
And so I just think you have to be around people that are going to push you and challenge you in a respectful way,
Yeah.
but they're not just going to simply be yes people who completely align with you on everything.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, one of the joys of being mayor, but also just sort of being in a nonpartisan job, is I interact with progressives and conservatives and libertarians and Green Party members and independents.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that I really like about the job. You get a chance to talk to people of all different walks of life, of all different political beliefs and backgrounds. And that has helped me also, I think, be a better leader
Yeah.
because I've got all of these different things in my brain going on of, well, hey, I talked to that person who might be on one side of the aisle politically, but then I talked to that other person who might have presented some other viewpoints. And now I got to try to find a way to mesh all of these things together and tease them out and come up with what I think is the best policy prescription for this issue for the city of Tempe. But I think one of the things that's been sort of bad for society is a lot of people now, because you can have your own cable news network that just sort of caters to your own political opinions,
Right.
or the blogs that you read or the podcasts that you listen to are all kind of the same stuff over and over again, to the point where you're not challenging yourself to think outside the box or consider different viewpoints or perspectives. But some people I've seen actually get to a place where they really start believing that everyone agrees with them.
Yeah.
Like, I've had
Yeah.
people say to me, like, well, Corey, everyone I know agrees with me. And I'm like, well, yeah, they do, because you have
Because you've
kicked everyone.
self-selected.
You have
Right.
you've kicked people out of your friend group
Yeah.
that actually would challenge you.
Yeah.
The first time someone tells you that they voted for a different presidential candidate or
Yeah.
voted for a different, candidate for Congress, whatever, you basically put that person out. Say, I don't want to be around you. I question your values, your ethics, your morals. I instead try to really listen to what that person is saying and say, maybe there's lessons in this
Yeah.
for me. It doesn't mean that I'm going to walk away and change my party affiliation or change my voting patterns or my beliefs on specific issues, but it might open my horizons up to different things that I haven't thought about before. And it might actually help me when I'm interacting with a group of residents or the next council meeting, because now when this group of people is coming with something in the meeting, I go, I know exactly where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And I might now have a better opportunity to address or fix the issue that they're raising, because I've opened myself up to a bunch of different perspectives and not just simply saying, I know I'm right, and all the people around me tell me that I'm right.
Right.
And reinforce my already, deeply held opinions about things. I think if you want to be extraordinary, you have to put people around you that are going to push you and challenge you to think outside of the box.
I
100%.
love it. What a great way to end the episode. You can read more about Corey Woods at joinextraordinary.com. That's JOINEXTRAORDINARY.com. I'm Forbes Shannon.
I'm Christine Butler.
I'm Corey Woods.
Thanks so much for being here, Corey. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.